Lawless, you see that multicolored cat on their sweatshirts, and they also share the same coach in Manu. So picking primarily on their own in this one, you have to wonder, does the experience of Ruben picking solo for a long time outweigh the upcoming talent of Pedro?
Mortar at the bridge, immediately responded to by the Little Prince. This is a very hectic start to the game. We see a lot of pressure coming down the lane. Mortar's gonna get some solid damage, and Ruben taking the lead.
Chaotic start, and Ruben comes out on top and gets the extra shot from the Mortar, ahead by a little more than 600 HP.
2 minutes, 16 seconds left on the clock, a minute 14 until the double elixir time. Both players taking a moment here, and we do see another Mortar from Pedro.
So nearly a mirror match here, maybe a full-on mirror as we get deeper into this game, and Mortar lock now for Pedro. His turn to get some good damage.
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. Like you said, almost complete mirror matchup, but you gotta favor Pedro in this mirror matchup. This is his bread and butter. Minor, poison, mortar. That being said, Ruben in a very solid damage lead, getting it even further with these goblins.
And now he goes Evolved Mortar in the middle to control the classic version of Pedro, and his Goblin will, of course, help get that down just a little bit. Little Prince to clean up the minions as we get past the halfway mark of our opening three of the lead for Ruben, 2168 to 1458. And, you know, Jackson, you have to take into account in this matchup, not just Ruben's skill level, but he's been playing live on stage since he was 14 years old. Legendary at Team Queso playing in Spain with huge, loud, wild crowds over there. And you have to imagine that the bright lights here do not faze him at all.
Absolutely. Here we go. Evil Mortar at the bridge. Minion's gonna try and take that down. Miner's doing a great job of tanking, but Mortar is done. Ruben doing a great job of, like you said, you know, taking that heat. He knows how to defend, and he gets it done.
Miner goes to the number 3 spot, courtesy of Pedro. We'll get some good chip damage here as Ruben tries to defend his Mortar against Little Prince, but it does survive. And now it's Pedro's turn to turn a Mortar into a wasteland.
Miner in the very back right. Pedro predicting in the anti-mortar placement that Vito was talking about earlier. A lot of the time you see Miner being placed in the placement to distract the Mortar.
And you see Ruben here doing a great job of sucking out the Miner on defense. The more you can keep that Miner of your opponent from playing offensively, of course, the more you can extend that lead. And right now, things looking very, very good for the 2020 MVP.
Pedro knows that he can't come back with just Miner chip, which is why we're seeing him use a lot of Mortars in offense. He needs that Mortar connection to win this match, but Ruben is going to keep applying the same pressure on the right-hand side.
And you see Ruben kind of just ignoring that Miner fully, and that's quite a lot of damage to take at this stage. His Mortar evolved, not going to turn, but you see Pedro now taking pretty much a full Miner.
Little Prince ability, Little Prince dealing quite well from that. Here comes the Miner again. Miner to defend the Miner is not looking great for Pedro, especially with 3-card cycle activated for Ruben here.
Little Prince does defend for a moment, and look at that. Guardian does get out to help keep that Mortar up. Log to protect as well, get a little bit of chip damage. And again, Ruben extending his lead. You see the grimaces from Pedro. I don't feel like we saw this much expression from him during gameplay throughout this year, and now he's definitely showing his emotions on his face.
Miner plus minions. Miner to tank the minions here. Minions to defend the Miner, and another Mortar at the bridge. That was a tongue twister.
Got through it very nicely, though, Jackson, as the Ice Spirit goes down and the Little Prince comes out to stop the Mortar from connecting. 497 to 1072. Miner of Pedro goes to the back. Miner of Ruben does not connect. Poisons, though, in to extend that lead. This is a little closer, I think, than maybe Ruben had anticipated, but he is almost there for his next poison cycle.
Miner in the back. Mortar is locked on tower. Poison drops down, but I think the poison's going to take it in time.
And it's a photo finish. Ruben gets it done by 155.
Wow, that Mortar shot was in the air, Rich. It was so close to landing and taking that game. Like you said, I do not think that Ruben thought it would be that close, but Pedro, you
had 3 accounts in the top 10, and he's continued to play like that throughout this year.
Yeah, I mean, ladder's one thing though, but we have duels formatting. We have a lot of differences here, and looks like he's gonna start this game with a Mother Witch versus Skelly's a decent start.
And maybe Balloon here from Ruben. Musketeer, an interesting choice as your glass cannon.
Roll Recruits at the bridge, Phoenix to prepare. I mean, we see a Roll Recruits Hog Rider coming in here. What a play in the Tombstone's lanes!
Wow! Pedro blinks and Ruben runs right on past him. That tower is absolutely shredded. Not long for this world it stands, but oh my word, Ruben comes out with a bang.
Pedro trying to counter push. He's got the Skelly King. He's got the ability. He's got a lot on the board. Ruben has 3 elixir. Is that going to be enough to deal with this defense? There goes the ability. Does he have the small spell? He goes for the arrows. But look at this tower.
Wow, just a slobber knocker, a slugfest. Shots both direction, and just like that, we are pretty much all tied up, tower down, and Pedro right back in it.
This is wild. This is something we are not used to seeing in the Clash Royale League, but we've seen a couple times today. We just see pressure at the bridge. Mother Witch out cycle, I'm going for the recruits. I'm going for the hog. And Pedro doing a great job of staying calm. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to make that play to go in and take that tower.
Well, again, you talk about a guy who has been phenomenal, does not get that fireball onto the Musketeer. She will be healthy behind all of this as the Rage works to get that Hog Rider down, but Muskie gonna do triple duty here, working in the bridge fight, on the Skeleton King, and now on the Phoenix.
Is gonna take the Phoenix Egg out as well. All in all, pretty even, but Ruben's doing a great job of pressuring with the Fire Spirit to make sure that this Musketeer is forced to be responded to.
Do we see a pocket play from Pedro? Probably not yet. It is only at 5 elixir, but that is now opening. You see the Tesla maybe there to predict the pocket drop instead. Pedro, RG's up in the back.
Ruben gonna do the same thing. He's gonna play his evolution in the back. Next cycle, both of these Evos will be in hand, but you can't help but be a little bit in the driver's seat if you're Ruben here, because those recruits are gonna do a great job of stalling these RGs.
This time, Fireball plus Rage gets the Musketeer off the board very easily. Second Tesla down. Pocket now exposed, though, for Ruben in the next exchange, and he gets his Evolved recruits down very quickly. Maybe looking to cycle back to a Tesla in the next couple of cards.
Skelly King doing a great job of preventing any sort of counter push. Fireball last card for Ruben. Gonna drop on top of that Mother Witch.
And here we go, Musketeer, Tesla might go to the opposite side, spread out the Fireball targets, and the Musketeer still working against this Evolved Royal Giant. Arrows have to come out defensively. Look at that recruit, though, the Evolved recruit all over the King Tower, and suddenly Pedro having to defend on 2 fronts.
Wow, tower's down to 1134 because that recruit is just barely out of range of the Princess Tower, getting so much damage.
And this makes Fisherman so much harder for Pedro to use. Can't really get involved offensively. Obviously, not a great offensive target out of all these ones, but he doesn't want to pull that Musketeer. Has to go with these Fireballs because he needs to save that Fisherman to pick up the dangerous, opportunistic hog you might expect from Ruben at some point.
I love how Ruben's constantly cycling these Musketeers. It's very difficult for Pedro to deal with them. It always forces out 6 elixir.
Can Ruben just defend from this point, or does he need to extend this lead? He has a pretty sizable margin.
Yeah, I honestly think that he's good to just keep defending. He's cycling recruits, always getting the Evo version down. And that's the thing about recruits, they kind of play themselves. Not only can you defend with them on the right, but they're always going to apply pressure in the left-hand lane.
Fisherman down. Is this an opportunity with some pressure on the left-hand side? No, goes for Fireball on the Mother Witch instead. Final minute, triple elixir. Pedro facing the possibility of dropping down to the lower bracket. Has to make something happen.
Skelly King in the middle to take out the Tesla. RG is locked on tower for at least 2 shots. I mean, that's some damage.
That's big damage. Fireball in, and suddenly we are close. Fisherman, though, walking away. Tesla there. Arrows trying to clear. Hog does not get the shot. The Fisherman turns around and might have just saved Pedro's game.
This game is so close. Musketeer dies in the tower. Here goes the evil RG in the pocket. Tesla trying to deal with it.
Oh my God, it's on tower! The evil RG beats the Tesla, and Ruben has to go to game number 3 against Pedro.
Are you kidding me? Ruben and Pedro, game 3. I mean, you guys are right. This side of the bracket is monstrous.
You're playing...
That situation actually is what made it so difficult for him, because the Tombstone and the Fisherman are such great counters to the Hog Rider.
Lack of rage does limit the options that Ruben's concerned about, so not worried about Sparky himself. Goes ahead and plays Sparky on his side of the board. An immediate Hog Rider right into a Mini Peck.
Mini Pekka, quickly enough plays, always going to counter that Hog Rider for an even trade, and then counter push, forcing Pedro to get this Tesla out early.
So full-on aggressive early Goblin Giant Sparky push. Rage does get the distraction there onto that Mighty Miner, and it does go down. The Sparky will not get the shot off. And now Ruben has to deal with these archers.
Here comes a Hog Rider as well. He does not have many P.E.K.K.A in cycle. He's forced to go for the Dark Prince. This Hog Rider is at least getting 2 shots here while the Archer kind of chips away at that shield.
So if you're Ruben here, other than the mini P.E.K.K.A, obviously, how are you preparing for when that Hog Rider outcycles you?
Honestly, I've seen a lot of really, really good Sparky players play. A lot of the time, they'll play the Sparky in back, even when they're not at 4 elixir, or full elixir. So a lot of the time, you'll see just 6 elixir Sparkies in the back to block that lane to make sure the Hog Rider is never able to break through.
An early Earthquake cycle for Pedro. And you see right there, as you're talking about, the Sparky being cycled into the weak side lane.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you can do that versus big spells like Lightning or Fireball or even Poison, but Pedro having the Earthquake here means that it's not going to get good value on top of that Sparky.
And it does get the Electro Spirit off. Not exactly what you'd love from a Sparky of all of its possible targets. Hog should be able to break through for 1, and it does.
Wow.
And look at those Evo Archers, but they switch targets as the mini P.E.K.K.A is slightly pushed back by the Hog Rider.
Skeletons distract, Tesla's still alive a little bit. Everything's raged up though. Mighty Miner plus Snowball to try and slow everything down and take it out. I love this ability though.
And the ability does reset a bit. Phoenix will put some death damage on there, but still the lead for Pedro. 47 seconds left and ahead by about 800. Now add that EQ.
Earthquake getting some nice chip. Another Sparky doing a great job of just blocking his lane like we talked about. But the thing is, Pedro doesn't exactly need to go for more Hog Riders. He's got his damage from the early game. Now he's content to defend quite well these E-Spirits and chip away with Earthquakes throughout the match.
And good skeletons here for the high distraction against that Sparky, but it might shoot on the tower, and it does! The Archer stays too close, and disaster strikes for Pedro.
Are you kidding me? The splash radius was absolutely brutal there for Pedro, and Evil Archers are going to kind of stalemate here. No, Evil Archers from Pedro are going to stay alive. Now Pedro's in a situation where he needs to get that damage back, and he cannot make another mistake.
And Dark Prince now opens up dual lane pressure for this Goblin Giant Sparky deck, which could also be a huge problem going in. And now Ruben's just piling it on here at the bridge.
Yeah, Dark Prince as well. Snowball trying to slow everything down. Sparky does shoot the 1 skeleton. No, the E-Spear gonna reset it. And this defense is solid.
Well, Pedro certainly has been capable defensively, and mini P.E.K.K.A not back, so Archers have to defend. Snowball gonna get some good damage here for Pedro, who might get one more, and he does. 6:04 left, and once again, the big swings of this match, Jackson. Game number 1, haymaker after haymaker, and suddenly Pedro has drawn blood.
Yeah, that's Snowball once again. It's a mini freeze, somehow slowing everything down enough to get 3 hog shots. It's up to Ruben now to break through before these Earthquake cycles finish him off.
And these Evo Archers are a huge problem for Ruben. Dark Prince gets out ahead, Sparky does some of its work, but these Evo Archers staying alive and getting so much value. You see Ruben shaking his head. He knows he can't do anything about them. He has no spell to attack. He has no way to get there. Just raging up a mini P.E.K.K.A, and that's it. GG, well played. Welcome to World Finals, Pedro.
Pedro with the reverse sweep. Absolutely astonishing us all with this beautiful gameplay. And like you said, those Evo Archers at the end really just clinched it for him. There was no way he was going to break through that.
And you got